Hi everyone, I'm Sean Lee-Davies. I'm a filmmaker and entrepreneur, and it's a real honor to be here in London for this Tatler exclusive. Today we welcome onto the show someone who really needs no introduction. He's the founder of Flight Story, as well as, of course, the host of The Diary of a CEO, one of the most powerful and most listened to podcasts on the planet by now. He's also become the voice of a generation interested in mental health, finding purpose, and really the meaning of true success. So without further ado, let's welcome onto the show, Stephen Bartlett. Stephen, it's a real honor to have you on the show today. I know you've been traveling a lot.
Yeah.
So tell us what's front of mind, to steal a phrase from you.
What's front of mind? Oh, God, it's an interesting one. I'm thinking a lot about Flight Story, our company, moving to the US and sort of strategic challenges and opportunities in that market. I think it's impossible not to be thinking a lot about artificial intelligence at the moment and how that permeates through everything that we do at every level, both an opportunity, but also a threat. And I like both of those things because they sort of come together. I'm thinking about, becoming a dad and getting married and all those things as well. So that's in the background somewhere. And then I also I'm thinking a lot about purpose and meaning and how sort of civic society has started to degrade in that regard because we don't level up to in the same way we used to. We sort of used to start with ourselves and then level up to our family, then community, then a shared sort of national or community goal, and then maybe something transcendent. And we've gone a little bit sort of individualistic and more isolated, more lonely, maybe more a bit narcissistic. And all the stats that I see, from doing my podcast over and over again show this quite horrific trend. So I'm thinking a lot about that as well.
Maybe for our Asian audience, you can give a bit of a summary about the different companies you set up to get to this point today.
Yeah, when I left university, I set up Wallpark, which was a student notice board. And in trying to figure out how to drive traffic to Wallpark, I discovered social media. And I started building social media pages and acquiring lots of social media pages. And as Wallpark began to struggle, I turned to my social media pages, which became clearly a much more, again, from first principles, a much more attractive business. At that time, I'd figured out that social media was giving sort of really, really cheap attention. So I started a company called Social Chain after that, which became a marketing and media company. And that took me on a journey for the next 6 years all around the world, Berlin, in our New York office, in London, in Manchester. Left that company when I was 27 years old. And at that time, it was a public company listed in a German stock exchange. I then started The Diary of a CEO. Roughly around that time, so around 2020, I started it properly on YouTube. At the same time, I joined a psychedelics company called Attire Life Sciences as a director and an investor to help on the journey of taking that company public on the NASDAQ, and then left that company. And then from there, started my fund called Flight Story Fund. Soon after started Flight Story, started Third Web in that time, which is our blockchain infrastructure business in San Francisco, where we have about 40, 50 people at the moment. And we've raised about $30 million from the likes of Shopify and Coinbase. And then lots of other businesses in between there. So Metastat is our paid performance marketing business. We own a few marketing agencies. And we started a company called Flightcast, which is the world's first video podcast hosting platform. We started a company called Culture Test, which is running from upstairs now, culturetest.com, which is a HR tool for screening candidates. And we've invested in lots of great companies from, SpaceX to Mr. Beast to Whoop to Zoe, to so many great companies. Perfect Ted, who are actually on the second floor of this building up here, who as of last week were the UK's fastest growing founder-led company, which is incredible. They're absolutely incredible. Lots of things going on. Yeah.
Incredible. And, I listened to your latest podcast with Kevin O'Leary. Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah.
He talks about, the entrepreneur, and he says it's not just about effort, it's also a bit about dharma, or karma, and luck. I mean, you must have the Midas touch to have started all those companies. But what I love about your approach is, you're never afraid to fail. I think that's the thing that most people are afraid to do. Once you get over that, then really the sky's the limit. But you're doing so much, like how much is enough for you?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that came to mind. It's funny, you mentioned Kevin O'Leary. One of the things he said to me in the conversation, for anyone that doesn't know, he's one of the sort of long-standing sharks on Shark Tank in America. One of the things he said to me is that people that are most successful in a particular pursuit are eclectic people. And this is what I've sort of learned from some of the great entrepreneurs of our time, like people like Steve Jobs and even Richard Branson, is when you look at their experience and their skill stack and their interests, it's really, really wide. It's like shockingly wide. And actually, if you think about someone like Steve Jobs, he had sort of yogic practices. He was obsessed with typography and design, and he was obsessed with nature and how that inspired him. And all of that came in to create something that was innovative and different. And I think about being width in the same way. All these companies that I've been exposed to help me have a broader view, which then feeds your creativity, because they say that creativity isn't thinking of new things, it's assembling old things in new ways, essentially. So the more reference points you have in your sort of your cloud of reference points, the higher probability you've got of making something new. In terms of when is enough, I just love it. I don't know, it's a really difficult question for me to answer because I just love what I do. I love building things. I love creativity. I love technology. So I just love it. And I love now being an investor and getting to come on the journey with other founders as they're going through all of the same challenges that I went through. And I think entrepreneurship is just a tremendous force for good. I think I see entrepreneurs as real superheroes. They have the possibility to be, because they can change the world. And everything that we're doing now, whether it's the cameras that are recording or the iPad that you have there or the electricity in this room, all comes from entrepreneurs and founders that have created products that move life forward. And so I think it's the most exciting field to be in. And I think there's never been a better time to be a founder with all the tools we have.
So before we dive into AI, there's always this pull of being an entrepreneur and having to think about the future and how your company is going to do. You're going to make your P&L and being present. What are your sort of non-negotiables for keeping you grounded or in the present moment so you can be the best entrepreneur?
I think entrepreneurs and anyone building anything, whether you're a creative, an artist, whatever you might be, you need to ask yourself continually, and this is almost checking in with yourself to see if you've been in the trenches a bit too long or you've been in the clouds a bit too long. And for me, it's a bit of a balance. I find in moments of my life when my calendar is really full, I feel like I'm stood too close to the painting that I can't see the picture. And actually, I think great entrepreneurs, they have a practice in their life in some way that means that they spend some time in the clouds and then some time like in the dirt. And being in the clouds allows you to look ahead and think broadly and really see the full context of things, and then sort of hone your intuition, give your intuition space to be heard. But then obviously you have to also spend time in the trenches and in the dirt getting things done. So I just check in with myself intermittently, and it's a feeling. And sometimes when I feel like I haven't spent enough time away from the picture, I'm stood a little bit too close, then I'll reorganize my calendar and speak to my team and say, I need some time. Yeah, and that's so critical, because you do need to step away. It's like your central responsibility as a founder is to spend some time seeing around the corner. And actually, in a world that's changing this quickly, if you listen to the futurists, faster than the world has ever changed, it's really important that you give your intuition space to speak to you.
So obviously, the big gorilla in the room is AI. A lot of these companies you set up, would you say are they vulnerable to the AI revolution, or are you incorporating AI into everything?
No, all my companies will be fine.
I thought so. Amazing.
No, at all times, and this has always been the case for every company, every individual, no matter what you're doing or where you are, there's always a bulldozer behind you. Now, how far it is behind you, I can't tell you, but there's always a bulldozer behind you. And really the choice through history is, do you want to drive the bulldozer or get hit by it? And it's only when you pretend that there's not a bulldozer behind you that you're susceptible to be hit by it. My entire life, I've been well aware that there's a bulldozer behind me, and I've had a great relationship with the bulldozer. I usually sit in the cockpit of that bulldozer and drive it, and AI is no different. I think whether it's a threat or an opportunity to you and your business will be determined by whether you think it's a threat or an opportunity, in part. And I think your reaction, actually, your outcome will be determined by your response. That's what I always told myself. And then I've been through maybe one or two of these disruptions. The social media, I guess, was one of them, and I built a business there. The next one was the blockchain and Web3, and we built Third Web there, which is a big business now. And then this third one is artificial intelligence, which is the biggest of all. Never in our lives have we seen the disruption of intelligence. The Industrial Revolution disrupted our muscles. We had robots and machines that could do things, but we still had our intelligence. And now AI disrupts our intelligence, which is really the thing that we had left. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to pretend it's not happening? Or are you going to lean in? And all the opportunity and value is captured from leaning in. So that is what we're doing. And here we ran a competition over the last 60 days where I said to the team, I said, this is not some kind of addition to our company. This is going to be foundational to our company. So what we're going to do is we're going to all self-educate. We're going to run a competition for the next 60 days where every single team and every single department here and actually in another company that I have, we're going to adopt AI agents to optimize our workflows, to do work for us. And I didn't have to. It turned out I didn't have to because everyone was so motivated to do it. But I offered $20,000 as the prize. And it was remarkable what happened over the next 60 days. Not only were the teams like super motivated, super energized, they came together, they bonded. But when we looked at the numbers, off the top of my head, it was roughly about $1.5 million in savings. And then I think it was 65,000 hours of team time saved because the team built like 47 AI agents to automate tasks that they probably didn't want to do that much anyway.
You have one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Would you ever have an avatar sit in for you in the podcast?
Nothing is off limits. And I think that should be the answer to pretty much all questions as it relates to innovation and possibility. Because the minute something's off limits, you shut down options unnecessarily. So like, if my audience decided that the thing that would give them the most value was an avatar being sat there, they would get the avatar.
Anthropic released an experiment, the data about the experiment about Claudius, which was an AI LLM running a small, medium-sized business. It was just a fridge with like vending machine in the end. But it was terrible. It was very good at the small stuff. It was terrible about running the overall business, and actually it lost a lot of money. That's first generation. Could you imagine in a few years the AI is running parts of your departments or making decisions at the sort of board level?
Yes.
And that's a good thing.
I reserve judgment. And again, this is like, I think when you try and just think about answers to questions like that from first principles, you go, okay, so what are the core components of it being able to do that? So intelligence is one of them. Maybe there's some sort of kinetic need. Maybe it needs to be able to move through space to run a business, to interact with team members, but also maybe not. So there are some businesses where you don't actually need to be physically present. So what you need is basically what they call general intelligence. And the biggest companies in the world are investing more money than anybody's ever seen to develop artificial general intelligence. And so at a point when we have artificial general intelligence, do I think that executive roles in companies like maybe finance or even strategy would be better done in some cases by an artificial intelligence? I think I see no reason why it wouldn't be. But this shouldn't be scary or worrying. This should say to all of us that humans adapt and evolve, and at the very sort of lower levels of our Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have a sense of connection and belonging and each other. And so what we're going to end up doing with all this time that we get back from not having to do some of the drudgery that we fill our lives with is we're going to have an opportunity to, I really believe this now, I didn't believe this at the start, but I now believe it, to redesign the way that we live our lives so that we can cater to some of those lost needs, which is being in person more. And actually one of the really remarkable things that I found from interviewing some of these AI billionaires was their other investments were all in this. Their other investments were often in things that were community-centric and in real life and in person.
So having interviewed all these AI experts and all these entrepreneurs, I also watched your episode with Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, and he basically said, well, you asked him what job would be safe. He said, a plumber's job, right?
He wasn't joking, because I asked him twice and he was like, no, a plumber. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, we'll still need plumbers.
So to all the people who look up to you, to give them the right advice, what are the core skills that they should have now to succeed as an entrepreneur?
So I think agency is a really important one, which is kind of what my mother accidentally gave me, which is just the ability to like pursue something and do something and to feel that you are sovereign enough to take an action and make something happen. I think taste is a really important skill of this sort of AI revolution, because AI is going to be able to make a lot of options, whether it's a lot of videos, a lot of pictures, a lot of whatever software. But ultimately, it appears that there's still going to be an element of taste that's going to be really, really central to that. So although you might not need 1,000 designers in a certain field, you'll probably need a handful that have really, really high taste and understand culture and zeitgeist. And then I would say people who are growth-minded, because I think that we're probably going to have multiple careers in our lives. And I think the system was designed to train you for one career, and then you go off on the journey of climbing that ladder over a couple of decades. But I think that's going to change. I think we're going to have multiple careers. So you're going to want people that are able and willing to change, which is something we think about a lot. And then I'll give you one more. I would say human skills are going to come in vogue, maybe because they're going to erode, and that those of us that still have that ability to interact socially with one another and win friends and influence people, I think that's going to be one of the most important skills of the next decade. So I'd say those things. And then hard work's always going to matter. Hard work is always going to give you an edge. You're going to get more done if you're working hard. And if you have high agency, good taste, you're pro-change, you lean in when things happen, you're really going to be one hell of a weapon in this next 10 years. Yeah.
You're a truly inspiring individual. Thank you, Stephen, for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in Asia.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.